Welcome to Under Construction from Chadwicks. My name is Donncha Callahan and I'm delighted to welcome you along today where we will be chatting pure site talk. Yes, we're going to dig into the issues that matter most to tradespeople on and off site. And of course, we'll have a bit of crack along the way. We have a fascinating conversation today. We're going to be tackling the big issue about the workforce. Is AI future-proof? What do we need to be looking at? What careers are safe? This is a great conversation. We are chatting to Lollie Mancey from UCD. She studies the fascinating subject of how technology and cultures collide. You may have seen her on the Tommy Tiernan show with her virtual boyfriend, but this is a great conversation. We're also chatting to Conor Kearney. Conor is the co-founder of CJK. They are on the front line of apprenticeships, training in schools and outreaching to loads of different schools within the country. This is a fascinating conversation. We hope you enjoy it. Let's get it done. Lollie and Conor, thanks so much for joining us on Under Construction. I'll be honest with you, I cannot wait for this conversation. I think it's the one probably everyone is having in different ways, but the workforce of the future and what it looks like, the use of kind of intelligence, artificial intelligence, where we end up. But before we get to all that, I suppose something AI hasn't mastered is grip strength. We've been doing it a little bit to just maybe break the ice, but we've a bit of a leaderboard here. Surprise, surprise, Philly McMahon with more All-Irelands than fingers, to be fair to him, is top of the list. So if you're up for it...
I'll be happy even just to get on the list.
Yeah. Well, you needn't worry. Pat Short is way down there. What we've noticed is all the footballers and sports stars are up the top of the list, but every comedian seems to be vying it out to get lower and lower. They want to go the other way.
Bottom.
Exactly, and they know it better than anyone. So, Lollie, do you fancy it?
Yeah, let's go for it.
So, by any means, as hard as you can, just...
When you say by any means, you mean I can cheat?
Yeah. Exactly. That's what we're going to be chatting about anyway.
Okay.
Go on, Lollie.
I'm looking at even on the board. 28 points.
28, respectable. We'll take it.
I'll take the bottom rung.
Yeah. Conor, you up for it?
I am.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it'd be any good at it, but
no, give it a
You
go.
just got to beat 28 though.
Yeah.
It's a low bar.
Every plumber in the place knows looking. Okay. Conor, you need to breathe.
54.3.
Oh, wow. 54.3.
You're fourth. That's very good.
That's amazing, Conor. Good on you. Look at him.
Well done. You've eclipsed my terrible one.
Not at all.
Can I have another go?
Yeah. We'll break it into bits. Lollie, we're going to get into the conversation, but I suppose, sorry, excuse my ignorance, the main time I saw you was on the Tommy Tiernan show.
That's fine.
It was fascinating to hear you chatting about your virtual boyfriend.
And we had a good laugh. I knew the minute I said it, I could see Tommy's face. He was like, oh, yeah. I was like...
You live for moments like this.
I put it out there and he was like, finally something I can talk to you about.
One of the greatest comedians in the world, I have a virtual boyfriend. You know what I mean?
He was like, oh, you just literally just feed me the lines here. Thanks very much. So, look, it's fascinating because, I know it seems weird and quirky and odd and et cetera, about 660 million people around the world, mainly Asia Pacific, have an AI companion. So friends, boyfriends, girlfriends. I know when you say boyfriend and girlfriend, it starts to feel weird.
Okay.
But companions. So mainly therapeutically, but also they would talk to on a sort of fairly regular basis. But when you look at so for research reasons, when I'm looking at that and I'm looking at 660 million people, South Korea, Japan, China, for example, I'm trying to look at the trends of what can we expect, what's coming over, you know, so to Europe and beyond. So I would imagine, I would imagine somewhere between 28 to 35% of us will also have an AI companion in some form by 2050.
Wow.
So that's, that it seems very strange and unusual. But the other thing as well is that when you look at the data, you'd think, is this just kids? But the average age over there in Asia Pacific is 27. So now I'm looking at it with my anthropologist hat on going, okay, so a lot of people are using AI companions. We have a loneliness epidemic. The average age is 27. We also have a declining birth rate. We've got problems, So I'm looking in that way to sort of say, okay, what are some of the ways that we could perhaps preempt some of those problems? And ultimately, part of the issue is, why do we have a loneliness epidemic, not why do we have AI companions, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of I see AI as a mirror showing us some of the gaps of things that we should probably address and fix.
Lollie, it's a wild thing to say, but it's probably to use that like the tool, exactly what you're using it for there, to nearly preempt. These are going to be the social gaps we have.
Yeah, and then whether you think you're going to like it or not, or want one or not, I'm working with avatars at the moment, and they're very realistic, and this is something that a lot of people are going to be very involved with.
Yeah.
And I think that, I would be concerned that if it's a substitution for human connection, then, we're not going to evolve as a species. But if it's to supplement you, if you're feeling a bit lonely or something, or you need a connection in a different way, then that's good. But how do we stop it becoming a substitution? Because we're literally, as human beings, wired for connection. We need to socially connect to each other.
I think COVID taught us that, didn't it? It really did. That, like the concept and the idea of it. I remember when
we came running out of COVID hugging each other.
Yeah.
That's all we wanted. And we have to remember that.
Yeah. Conor, for you, is it a daunting time? Something that worries you? Do you look at it with kind of, a generational hat to think what's coming? Or are you a bit embracive of how we can actually use this as a powerful tool to get better?
Well, technology is really, really coming into our industry, and it's being embraced. We're building buildings. A lot of buildings are being built off-site now and are arriving up and being plugged in, front and back of a lorry. The skill sets that are dropping with that. Obviously, there's concerns and worries about people being replaced. But in our industry, I still think there's going to be a requirement for electricians, plumbers, pipe fitters, doing the physical work.
Yeah.
Well, to be honest with you, I'm not sure what's coming. But no, we're seeing the technology has brought significant positives to our industry.
Yeah, but because maybe it's just my own ignorant thinking, but I thought there was always a drive towards, the tech side of it, or maybe the finance side of it, or different sides of business to push. But now you feel that there's this wave coming of trades, isn't it? And you finding that, Conor, on the ground?
Yeah, like if you go back, I mean, when the crash came in 2009, 2008, around that period, trades and construction became a dirty word. No one wanted to invest in trades, construction. The schools, the colleges, it was, get them into anything but.
Yeah.
Let's just go down the college route.
Yeah.
Let's push the college route. But I'm definitely seeing a change. Now, to be honest with you, when I was asked to come on the podcast, it got me thinking. I actually didn't really think that AI was possibly driving parents' decision making, as in possibly pushing them into where their children should go.
You feel parents are basically looking to future-proof their kids, is it?
Possibly now, because they're fearful of it, absolutely. But at the same time, you don't want kids being, forced into something that they don't want to do either.
Of course.
And what happened was with trades is that in this country particularly, points versus course. It was, if you got 500 points, well, look through the course book, you better do this.
Yeah.
And we have apprentices who are ranging from 42 years of age, 43 years of age to 18. They have to be 18 before they start in ours. We don't take them before leaving cert. But we've guys who went to Trinity, did history, Greek and Roman history. We've guys who went to UCD, lots of different careers who decided it wasn't for them. So why did they go and do it? Because they went to private school, there was an expectation, you've gone to college, trade isn't going to be for you. And now they're doing trades and they're happy. It's a good fit for them, and they're happier in their careers,
I think from an educational perspective, AI is massively disruptive. So, for example, the number one question I'm asked in UCD is, what subject should my children study, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, anything plus AI, right? So history plus AI, philosophy plus AI. You're going to need to know, how, as the technology advances, you're going to need to know how to navigate. It's going to be part of your future job, regardless of what you're doing.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of jobs that are seem to be future-proof now. And one of them is trades. I would say, my daughter wants to be an engineer, but had she not decided to go off to college to do that, I said to her, the best job you could do right now is plumber, the best job, because that can't be replaced by AI. So I think when it comes down to the other jobs, the caring professions, the more empathetic roles are safe.
Okay.
But trades are a really good bet right now. I'd put my money on them.
Yeah.
There's also the technology is benefiting. Like, to think that our apprentices that are coming through and our qualified staff, they have to be able to use technology now. They're on site with iPads and they're striking laser lines, and the jobs are being built virtually through BIM. So they're having to embrace technology. It's happening.
Even on that, Conor, a site compared to, because I always felt you're right, a generation probably pulled kids away from it because they might have thought it was like dirty trades that you're in it. Where you go on site now, it couldn't be safer. It's an incredible experience, incredible livelihood.
I look at right across we employ about 400 directs in our team, and I look at from our operations directors, construction directors, electricians, plumbers, quantity surveyors. The vast majority have come through a trade foundation, and that has been the foundation for all every one of them would say they've done MBAs and they've done masters, and they all say that the trade was the most important piece, which was the foundation of everything.
Yeah.
Of all the other training they've learned, them 4 years is where they learned the most. And why did they learn the most? It was because it was in real life skills.
Yeah. Okay.
Real life skills of dealing with people, dealing with expectation, having to get up for work on time every day.
Yeah.
Being responsible. Can't stay in bed. Can't
true.
turn home and say the lecture. Definitely I see the benefits of technology. We have embraced it,
Yeah.
and you have to.
Lollie, as a parent, give me a little flutter there when you actually mentioned that it's plus AI.
Yeah.
So I suppose maybe it's just the mindset is nearly, this is, but you're fully embraced of, aren't you?
Look, it's not a technical thing anymore. So it used to be that sort of, we had we go right back sort of to the early stages. We had the Industrial Revolution before that, the agrarian or agricultural one. Then we had a digital revolution where we started using digital platforms, right?
Yeah.
So the rise of the internet and the Internet of Things. And then we've now moving in, this is very different. This is a cognitive revolution. We're going to be thinking differently, using our brains differently, but we're going to be in a hybrid role whereby it's going to be us and the technology, right? Us and the AI. So whatever you're using, it's going to be AI assisted, meaning human plus technology in some kind of partnership. That's what I mean by a hybrid role. So it doesn't really matter what subject you're doing, but you're going to need to know how to navigate that. So it's more a sort of a mindset shift than anything else. So if you think ChatGPT is around 160 IQ points, same as Einstein, why wouldn't you want that on your team? And we know that a lot of people do because they're using it, even if they pretend they're not, So you would want that. Like, it's an addition part to your brain. You would want that. So that's going to be the way we move forward. But also, as it gets smarter, we need to be present in the room with it as well.
Yeah.
So I'm a big advocate, not necessarily for the use of it, but just for seeing the potential of what we can become as humans with it.
Yeah. Where do you see us in that progression? Like the mindset battle, do you think we're still reluctant?
We're very reluctant, and we're very early days. Like, kind of, we haven't really begun to understand what this means for us. But I think that we should all take AI literacy. I think from primary it should be embedded. You don't need to use technology to understand how algorithms work. You can have it at primary school level without the technology, and that's being done in lots of countries like Finland and in fact in Scotland, lots of places successfully. But
Sorry,
we have
Lollie,
to.
what is that? I don't understand.
Yeah, so the way that you teach, you're teaching about the fact that this algorithm or this AI is reading you. So what the input that you're giving it with your data, it's personalizing responses for you.
Okay.
So you're not thinking it's a godlike figure or it's it's Google or whatever it is. It's tailored for you in a specific way. You need to know how and why, and then you need to be able to resist that as well. So you don't think it's all encompassing like some sort of deity. And at the moment it's kind of magic.
Yes, you're right. Yeah.
And we need to kind of see, the bit The Wizard of Oz where they pull the curtain and there's a guy on the bicycle. We need to kind of do that a little bit and go, there's a person on the bicycle, but maybe it's Sam Altman. But to be honest, we need to understand how it works so we can also resist it and use it. So I've been calling for a little while now for a national AI literacy program for Ireland, and that's on the cards. And I think that's really, really important. Even if you don't want to use it, understand what it is so you can be a bit smarter.
Yeah.
And you're not sort of like a sitting duck to companies.
Well, that's always the key to everything, isn't it? If you're informed, Conor, you can make good decisions, isn't it? It seems...
Just saying what you're saying about AI literacy, I think at times I've been pushing, and I've always been a supporter of apprenticeships, is an apprenticeship literacy of people understanding the benefits, because genuinely, I spoke to in schools and school fairs and career fairs, and a lot of parents have no clue about the opportunities doing a trade. They really don't, and the career paths that can follow from that, the foundation it can build. So before kids even get out of the block, before they even get out of school, there's not a conscious bias of maybe that's not for you, trying to be gearing them towards somewhere else. You know? I've seen it over the years. Now, as I said, there is a shift, and maybe AI in the background is playing a part. It probably is. Parents are a bit panicked, but without that, we should be in pushing trades anyway.
Yeah. Well, there's a much bigger issue looming. if you want,
Great, we're on it. Let's get that kind of worms open.
The much bigger issue looming, exactly as you say, is the need for apprenticeships and internships, right? So if you imagine that AI is taking out some of the heavy lifting of the basic work, right? Yes. So I started my educational career, I suppose, age 17, 18, working on data entry, right? Okay. Same old repetitive, boring stuff, and enter the same stuff. 6 months later, enter the same stuff again, right? So it was just this manual task work. Yes. But I learned a lot while I was doing it. And that's how we all learn on the job, regardless of what sector you're in. Now, AI is coming in saying you don't need to do any of that low-level stuff anymore. Okay. We'll take that away. So AI is now assisting taking that. So how do our young people learn on the job? So because we've formalized apprenticeships and trades, but we haven't formalized it in any other industry. So you're no longer going to be able to go in as an intern and just figure it out as you go along. You're going to actually have to have some sort of advanced onboarding because you're going to go in 2 or 3 levels up without the skills of the basic skills that you needed, which is I understand what it's like to wake up every morning and go to work and be present and all of the rest of the stuff. So we've a real issue coming now for my 3rd level students. They're coming out, 18, 19, 20 years old. They're coming through with very little actual business application for the world that they're going to live in. And that gap's going to get wider. So I'm very worried about that.
And just following on from that, with the advent of technology in our industry, the exact where learning the hard yards at the start is being removed. For instance, years ago, people would have to work out how to wire lights in this room, and how would we switch them, whatever. Now a guy comes in a laptop and clicks, but that's removing some, challenges from, as in fault finding and creativity, and so demarcation, unfortunately, has to happen. There is tasks that we have to accept are going to be gone, which is the more menial stuff. But even in our apprenticeship, we have to look at adding in, and it is happening, but it has to happen faster, is the digital bolt-on, the digital plus, as we say, to apprenticeships and trades.
Well, what happens when it all goes wrong and we need a kill switch operator to turn the whole thing off? we need to understand. All right, my heart. I got this.
Have you a bag for me here?
But so we need to, say for example, we saw with in Spain and Portugal recently with the power outages.
Yes. Yeah.
Everyone just went, well, what do we do now?
100%.
So we need to understand the basics of how to do things without the technology.
And it's amazing. I don't think it's till moments like that happen that you realise how reliant they are. Like even just with our kids, you know what I mean? The power goes on an iPad.
Teach them to read maps.
They go, how do you get here? But we are reliant on it. Kind of your point. My brothers are plasterers, but I used to labour for them. But I remember just the vulnerability of making mistakes when it came to measuring plasterboards for ceilings and stuff like that, and getting it wrong, with them. You know what I mean? Was a massive pressure to make sure you.
Well, you learned when you got it wrong. You learned. Look, we can't blame the current generation. Things are a lot easier. There's a lot of easier because they have so many digital tools to make things easier. But there is, as Ollie was saying, there is a loss in, as you said, in that journey of the hard yards and getting knocked down and making mistakes and being a bit more resilient, and it's not everything straight out of the box now and plug it in. You know what I mean?
It's and resilience is a really overused word, but you're right. Like it's grit, right? Like how do we teach grit, which is the ability to go, okay, I can learn from that mistake and move on. If we're just seamlessly taking away the stuff that you mess up with, so I think we've got a bigger challenge. And then I was talking to someone, I was on this morning on TVM talking about the Gen Z stare, right? Which is where they're blanking out when you ask them a question. This is an internalized sort of self-preservation mechanism that this new generation have got because they are performing so much. They're told they have to perform correctly. So they have an inbuilt sort of, it's unconscious, this sort of monitor of sort of checking out in case they do something wrong.
Okay.
And so that's really interesting because it's being perceived as rudeness, right? By our generation of going, why are they so rude? Why are they just staring at me? But actually, it's an internalized fear about messing up. So we need to address that.
Yeah.
Because otherwise they're never going to take a risk.
Yeah,
of course. And they're never going to learn anything.
Yeah, I thought it was just wearing high socks. No, there's a stare.
It's that as well.
But Lollie, it's so interesting you mentioned it there. If you're saying the tasks that you're used to making mistakes on, and the repercussions aren't as big, but if they're coming in higher because that's all being looked after by AI,
it's going to get worse.
Yeah, the mistake has a bigger fall now, doesn't it?
And it has not only that, but much bigger consequences. I mean, if you take the idea of sort of a CEO wanting to implement some kind of AI technical architecture for their company, right? Streamline this process or make this easier or make this better. What AI is going to do is amplify the culture that you've got in your organization. So say, for example, you've got a small problem and then you suddenly scale it with AI. Now you've got a very big problem that actually might be very detrimental to your whole company.
Okay. But
you haven't, you didn't have the literacy yourself as a CEO to understand some of the problems. You passed it all over to the tech team.
Yeah.
Do you know? So we kind of all have to get on board now with accountability, because if you bring in an AI, an AI sort of assisted program, who's accountable when the AI doesn't get it right? You?
Yeah.
Or your CTO, or the person, the intern that messed up because they didn't know not to, So this level of accountability, AI can't operate without us. It's humans plus technology. So we haven't figured out where the buck stops.
Yeah. Where are we, though, in terms of the view of it? Is it very different from parents? And Conor, you might see it in schools. Like Chadwicks have some incredible research, and I think it's 59% of 16 to 24-year-olds, and then 42% of parents believe AI will ultimately have a positive effect. Are you seeing that on the ground? Do you think that's kind of... Are they nervous? Like you probably see them at the future-proven point that they're kind of going, should I get into this trade?
Yeah, I was surprised at them figures, to be honest with you. I don't know much about...
ChatGPT came up with them there. What's the...
I hope you checked them.
I've never used ChatGPT. I don't know anything about AI.
What did you do with your evenings?
And I was surprised at them figures. Whatever positive effects it brings, what we have to do is make sure that the negative impacts that we mind, and it's simple thing as... let's talk about culture. You mentioned earlier. Let's talk about teams. And the last thing we want to do is that we become like streamlined, efficient. I understand that's all important, but not at the expense of having a bit of crack, or not at the expense of... Look, we brought in actually a guy, Tony Griffin. He's the ex-Clare hurler.
Yeah.
And Tony's coming in as a performance coach into our CJK Academy. And the reason we brought him in is why? Because foremen and supervisors are focused on getting the job done, and they're spending their life on laptops and spending their life in doing stuff that they never did before. But that glue and that stretch because of communications, they're on their phones, they're not talking to one another.
Yeah. And
just making sure, trying to go out and listen to them. What are their challenges?
Yeah.
What are they finding every day due to that? Communication is just not the same. Mm-hmm. So they're my fears around it. I'm not sure about the stats, to be honest with you. My fear around technology is around the people piece. It's about people staying engaged. What it's all about, like, you know what I mean? It's about, the great thing about trades is team. If you want to be in a team, we're relying on you. We've guys who've come in who are quiet, shy guys who are struggling possibly with the world and not mixing so well. And I see them coming out 4 years later, and they're different men and women because they understand what it's like to be in a team, like a team that you played in. But this is a working team.
Yeah.
So the fear for me will be technology.
It doesn't have to be an either or, though.
No, it doesn't, and I don't.
I think this is, we get caught up in this.
Agreed.
In the idea that is sort of technology good or bad and people good or bad, whichever side you come down on. None of this future is written, right? So we haven't done it yet. So, I think when I was making Futureville last year for RTE, one of the things we did was we started with what do you think the world of 2050 will look like? And we started in Athlone, but this series is building out across Ireland. Like, what are your hopes and fears? And everyone's hopes and fears are the same. Like, I want an equitable place for my son or daughter to be raised in health. I don't want them to have to leave the country for work. I want them to have housing and safe and happy, right? We all want the same things. And we have since the beginning of time. And so how do we use the technology to design that future rather than be told by the tech companies, this is the future we're building for you? So this is the literacy piece, but also we need to be very ethical. You hear very rarely about AI for social good or social impact. It's all AI for profit or shiny new thing or organizations or processes. What about AI to help us solve some of the bigger issues that we've got, like loneliness, and I don't think AI is the answer, but I think it's showing us that we're lonely, and I think that's a really good start, right? So the technology will come in and people will design things where there's a vacuum, where there's a gap. And that doesn't mean it's good or bad, but it's showing us the gap. Let's deal with that first.
Yeah. But it's amazing you say it, Lollie. You're right. It's the first thing we think, like, how do we monetize it? How do we make, as opposed to thinking, this incredible tool.
How could it help us flourish better?
How can we be better with this?
Yeah,
it is. Do you think that there will be an evolving to that? Are we still at that critical point? Or you feel we're a bit behind?
I hope so. I think we're a bit behind, and literacy will help. So we also have an idea about what we might talk about. I did a talk up in County Tyrone for it was a reconciliation and meditation centre. It was a strange one that came off the back of unusual one that came off the back of the Tommy Tiernan.
They're always the best.
They were like, would you come and talk to us up here? I was like, yeah, sure. Drove up, and then it was a lot of people, and they were there was people there in the 70s and 80s that were saying, I have never attended a talk on AI before, and I didn't think it was anything to do with me. But now, having listened to you, I actually realized I'm going to learn a bit more about this so I can speak to my grandkids. Yeah. And I was like, it's this exact thing that, like, otherwise it gets designed for us and we haven't got a clue what it does or how it is going to affect us.
Of course.
But if we can all understand it a little bit more, we can have a bit of a say and say, I don't agree with this, or I don't want it here. That's completely fine. But we have to have a stake in the game to be able to say that.
Agreed. It's the ostrich approach. You know what I mean? Like if you're not,
we can catch up anyway.
Yeah. Can you? I'm just interested in the stats, and I don't mind calling a few of them out. 75% of young people now actively seek AI-proof careers. Are you finding that?
There is a no AI-proof career. I would say that's probably the wrong angle. It's how do I? And so if you go into something going, I'm completely never engaging with it, that's probably not going to a career that and. It's hard to say. Some of the more creative roles, even down to singer-songwriter, a lot of that is now AI assisted, but we can't let it replace us, in terms of that. So I think it's that they are very keen on moving into it, but they are digital natives. They were born with this, whereas I come from Shakespeare times before the internet, of. So they're not used to anything but this. So I think that they're quite positive about it. They're quite worried about the environment, rightly so, about energy, data centers. There's a lot of problems to be solved. But I think they're leaning in because it's what they know, and they're quite excited about the possibilities.
I mean, it's natural to worry, It's natural to worry. I'm surprised. I'm really surprised at that 75% of AI proof, because I don't think that's possible. The 75% avoid it.
And I don't even know what it means, because we're going to be coexisting with it.
Because you can't avoid tech. I mean, it's about embracing tech, career. And as I said earlier, the trades, we have started to embrace it. And there's huge benefits.
Yeah.
There's efficiency benefits. There's benefits for clients, benefits for the customers. But it's not about, like, the need for people to build and fix things, as far as I can see, has a decent future ahead.
Of course, yeah.
It's just making sure that we marry up and we embrace it correctly,
Yeah, but Conor, you're at the coalface there. You're actually in the schools, aren't you, with CJK Academy and chatting about plumbing in at the...
Yeah, what we did was we in toying with Chadwicks, Paul Hollywood from Adamstown School, he rang me a couple of years ago, and he wrote me in, and he said, listen, he did this thing off his own bat. He built a workshop around trades and around plumbing. And I thought, this is unbelievable. He did it in his own time. And he wanted to roll it out. And DTL, ETB got behind it. And they've done 3 schools. There's 3 schools done now. So in conjunction with Chadwicks and ourselves, we help build these workshops, And it's really beneficial it's transition students.
Of course, yeah.
And what we've done also is...
They're always the ones trying to get out of anything.
Absolutely. But where you need to capture around trade and around like Lollie just mentioned there about like worry and fear. It's worry and fear is because when you don't know something, you don't know anything about it. Parents have worry and fear about trades because a lot of them haven't, have thought they've been programmed, pushed them towards college, pushed them towards tech, pushed them towards computer. You can't go wrong. It's a bit like our own parents. Our own parents, my dad worked in the same job all his life. He's 92 now, but he was from 14 to 51. He was in labour with us. When he got out, he said he ran out the door. But he looks back and goes, it was a great career, it was great, stable. Life is going to be a portfolio of careers now, 100%. Going forward. What we're trying to do now is, for instance, over summer, we have 12 or 13 16-year-olds in on sites doing summer work.
Oh, brilliant.
And they're going home, hopefully they're going home to their teammates and their schoolmates saying, geez, I got paid decent money and whatever. And it's pushing that. But what they're doing, what Paul Hollywood and what they're doing in the schools, will just give them the first sense of, God, I built something physically. I see that over there. Yeah. You can't beat something that you make yourself that's a physical thing.
Yeah, I think that traditionally there may have been a bit of snobbery, to be honest. Yeah. The idea that sort of, my son or daughter is a doctor or a lawyer, and we talk about future-proofing AI careers. One of the best things you could do at the moment is learn a trade, and they're talking as well about how do we bring back those trades we've lost, like upholstery and in the circular economy, the thatching and all of these beautiful old trades that we had in Ireland that we're at risk of losing. So I think, as we move forward, we're going to see a sort of a much more prevalence on sort of like things that we've made with our hands, because it's different from the way that it, that it could be created by machines. So we used a 3D concrete printer to print a row of houses in Futureville, right? And just because we could make houses in 3 weeks from a 3D printer that was leased from from Denmark, actually, does that mean that would put people out of work in terms of construction? Well, it's just a different way of working. It's a different conceptualization. Of course. You're still going to need all of those trades, and you're going to need someone to program it in, and it's just a different way. So again, it's like having an amazing technical person on your team that can create in a different form, but we're also going to need that other stuff. And I think that we're probably going to end up with a 2-tier system, I'd say, by 2040, which is things that are made and developed by humans have a higher price point, including content, than things that are made by AI.
And do you think there's a difficulty at the moment in understanding what is it like?
Well, you don't have any transparency of what's made by AI. So at the moment, it's kind of all out there, like a big free for all. So I think there will be transparency, maybe, but we can't even see what's a deep fake. It's impossible at the moment for us to understand that something is not real or is generated by AI. But there's a big backlash coming against AI, which is this was generated by this content was generated by AI. Therefore, it's not as important, or it's not as relevant. Otherwise, we're just making stuff.
Yeah, but it's funny you say it, because you're saying, like, we need to take our head out of the sand, but if there are the moments that we need to probably say, yes, I got this information from it, and this is how I'm using it.
But look at the other trends, right? You've got fast food and slow food. Slow food now being the way, farm to fork, and the way that we should live better and we should live closer to the seasons. We lived like that in the past. Yeah. We need to go back to that a little bit more. That's exactly right. So, I mean, had the term Back to the Future not been taken by another film, we would have called Futureville that. Yeah. Because a lot of the time we're doing that. So in terms of fast fashion, slow fashion, for example, things that are circular economy and handmade, and we're going to see the same in the trades, that anything that is handmade or hand created has a higher value for us as humans. And I think that's really important. And the return to the trades, I think you're having a moment. I think it's just beginning.
I definitely feel that if you think back in, I'm the first qualified tradesperson in my family across all my cousins. And so my generation, I was the first qualified. I'm from a working class background. Yeah. And my daughters and my siblings and my cousins, their children, university is the first time. Yeah. But I remember one of my mentors, when he got his apprenticeship, telling me in the late 70s, his mother called the whole road in that he got an apprenticeship to celebrate. Because there was no opportunities, okay? We've kind of lost the run of ourselves, We lost the run of ourselves because we're thinking that, hands is something, working with your hands is something to be ashamed of. Yeah. But it's not. It's something to be proud of, and it's certainly something I left school at 15 and I qualified at 20, and, I'm still, I might see, I own CJK, but at the end of the day, I'm a proud electrician to have saved me time, you know.
Of course, yeah.
I would also just mention the amount of money that tradespeople make compared
No,
to
we're
other people
chatting.
in
Let's
other
go,
areas.
Lollie.
You know,
yeah,
like-
but it's
like-
true. My nephew has taken on a trade. All of his buddies went to college, but he's the guy
Yeah.
buying the car.
Oh, yeah,
chatting,
six
and-
figures plus,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and like again, you know, a decent day's work for a decent, you know, a decent wage. You know, we're struggling at the moment. If you were telling your kids to be coders now, what are they going to do? You know, in terms
Yeah.
of software development, that's taken out by AI. A lot of the driving jobs are going to be gone. Some cashier jobs to be, you know, to start with. So I think, you know, what's going to survive the age of AI? One of them is the trades. Like, no question.
Wow.
I'll give you a funny story. I was out doing a school. It was my old school in Cabra, St. Declan's, and it was about 5 years ago. And our HR manager, Debbie, and myself were there, and a couple of teachers were witnessing it, and we put up the pay scales.
Okay.
And of electricians and pay scales of plumbers and first year apprentice, second year apprentice, third year. And one of the teachers put their hand up and says, "Can I be a third year apprentice?"
Yeah.
Because it's more than they're
Yeah,
on.
yeah,
to
yeah.
it. So earn as you learn. If you think about it, you're not building up college debt.
Yep.
Yeah, there's,
So you could build yourself a house because you're not going to get one any other
and you're
way.
in demand, and you can go anywhere. I mean, if you get a trade in Ireland, globally, even when we hit recessions here, we hit another recession.
Yeah.
But there's always somewhere that's
Yeah.
going to be looking for qualified,
But the thing
be
about
it
that, Conor,
plumbers, carpenters, bricklayers, whatever they are, all trades.
we do it right. If you know what I mean, like the
We're good at it.
standard again, yeah,
We're
exactly,
good at
is
it, yeah.
quite high.
And the training is very good. The training, and in fairness, we give out a lot, but the training to get in college as well, it's very good. It's of a very high standard, and it is world renowned. Like, you very rarely hear of tradespersons going away and the Irish don't know what they're doing. You
Yeah.
know, and that's not, that can seem a little bit like old hat.
No.
But it's true.
Yeah.
We've always had a reputation for
Being able to blag it.
yeah, but being able to build,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
you
of
know,
course,
and it comes back from, you know, and I'm going to get in trouble now because I'm a dub, but I even see when some of the country lads come up and they've already worked on farms, and you know, and their expectation is, and they're not hanging out of, you know, they're not the pretty boy Dublin lads,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
but they're very stand on their own feet. That expectation of working on the farm and doing hard work, you know, it's another foundation to setting you up for life, you know.
Yeah. Lollie, just chatting to the tradesperson in the van, what would you look to add to your kind of toolbox, your skill set?
Yeah, get yourself upskilled. Get yourself upskilled in the AI that's going to be appropriate for your industry, for sure, to get ahead of it, because it's going to change quite quickly and quite dramatically, you know. So even a couple of years ago, we were teaching sort of, you know, what digital platforms people would need, but by the time they're upskilled in them, another thing has supplanted it. So kind of get involved with where the industry is going. Also have a look at sort of where some of the gaps are. So, you know, you mentioned before the portfolio career, the squiggle career, you know, multiple revenue streams. That's the future. Small gig economy, you know, you'll have one main income potentially from something, but you'll also have a whole nother sort of set of them. Tradespeople are very good at that, sort of, you know, the nixes, you know. So actually that's most of my students now. I'm saying to them, you cannot rely on any one subject or one area.
Because Conor mentioned that, like the days of staying in one job forever, that's gone, isn't it?
Pretty much, yeah. So the idea that you train, I mean, even maybe the medical profession would be one, for example, but a lot of them now are sort of starting to say, okay, with the AI applications of reading X-rays and everything else, you know, that's changing very fast as well. So I don't know that there is one job for life anymore. I think, but again, the skills agility as you change during your life and you get more skills, you know, you're able to do other things.
Yeah.
So I would just say sort of you've got to keep one eye on that flexibility piece as well.
Yeah.
You know, we saw during COVID a lot of layoffs, and we're seeing massive layoffs now in the tech industry. You know, and so how do you future-proof yourself where you're able to turn your hand to
And that
loads of things?
foundation of trade gives you that agility, you know. As I said, I could mention 15 different professions in CJK that we're working at, you know, planning, scheduling, quantity surveying, estimating, you know, supervisors, leaders, you know, and in CJK we're definitely trying to be a little bit different. We're bringing in, as I said, we brought in that consultant where Tony was talking about earlier. We're trying to teach them to be leaders at an early stage. We're investing in their future. But it does give that agility, a trade foundation, give that agility to have possibly a portfolio of careers
Yeah.
in the future, you know.
It's amazing you mentioned it, the Nixers, the Foxers, whatever it is. I didn't think of it that way. The kind of, what did you call it, multiple revenue streams?
Yeah, like just like ability to turn your hand to different things at different times in your life.
Yeah.
You know, so if you think about the structural change that we haven't really got our heads around at the moment is that we think we go to school, then we may go to college, or we get a trade, and then we work, and then we retire. That is all changed. So
Yeah.
between now and 2050, you'll be in and out of education throughout your life, upskilling to different things. Your education career will look different. It'll be a lot more practical, I think. And then also retirement at 65, you're kidding me. Like, we're going to live to 100 by 2050. We'll have very few in terms of medical issues. We'll have more lifestyle, issues potentially, but very few medical issues. So as a consequence, what do we need to do in order to work longer and have more purpose, So that's where the mindset shift comes of, we're not retiring at 65 to go to the golf course. Not by 2050, we're not.
Yeah.
There's no pension money left anyway. So,
So get at it.
How are we going to live, and what kind of things are we going to do? So, I see a lot of people returning back to working with their hands in later life as well.
But we also have a big responsibility. We're doing our little bit. We have to do more. We have to bring more female into it. We've 7 out of about 140 apprentices. It is higher than the industry average. However, we have to do more. The schools have to do more. The guidance councils have to do more to push the benefits. And it's also the education, the understanding, because you go into some of these schools and I'm shocked at the lack of knowledge of what's out there and the career paths they can follow, which it should be clear to them.
Yeah.
And even if you think about it, going into when kids are going in to pick, when do they, sometimes they make a decision. They make a decision sometimes going into secondary school, and they're told, go in, do computer, don't be going in, do metalwork or woodwork. Well, we need to let them be exposed to computers and technology and let them make the decision.
Yeah.
Rather than parents or teachers saying, oh, don't go near that.
Exactly.
Who knows in the
We've
future?
just ratified a brand new primary curriculum, right? So we've just added in, it was just a couple of months ago, we added in skills from engineering and skills from physics, right? Which is a basic level at primary, a ball rolls up a hill, down a hill, whatever. And I absolutely applaud that, because we've been really strong on STEM. But what we've done is we've been really strong on STEM over the last 10, 15, 20 years, which has stood to our advantage. But we've produced technology workers, whereas STEM is actually way more than just the technology piece, right? So I think as a consequence, we've been a little bit blinkered in. Well, obviously, it's not our fault. We didn't know what was coming and everything else. But at the same time, also, those kind of changes to the primary curriculum will only work if it's open to all. And it's a 50-50 split eventually, we would like to see,
Absolutely.
And so what else is going on culturally that's preventing young people from making those decisions? And again, I would go back to this snobbery idea that is now outdated, because I can tell you categorically, as someone in third level, I would be encouraging my children to take up trades.
And following on from that, to give credit where credit is due, far more mature than the generations now, far more mature around boys and girls around each other than we were growing up.
Yeah.
Because of, they go to school together, they have friends.
Yeah.
They don't have to be boyfriend and girlfriend. We were growing up, it was all about, us and them, that kind of stuff. So it's a safe place now. Building sites are a safe place. Like, they need, as you said, the school educators need to understand that it is a safe environment. As you just said earlier, you go into these sites now, you could eat your dinner off the floor. Yeah. They're safe. Culturally, they're safe. There's none of the old rubbish that used to go on about, around them. Now, don't get me wrong. When you've got 7 versus 140, what's so important is to make sure that you create a sense of belonging in that team. And don't underestimate if there's one girl or two girls on a site and there's 20 lads or men. You have to work on that to make sure, to make them feel, so that they're going back and going. And I have to say, we've 7 high-performing female apprentices, and we want more,
Just on that kind of, because sport had that problem as well, and one of the main problems was visibility. We just didn't see it. It just wasn't normalised enough. How do we change, we chatted about it earlier on, the kind of mindset that people can have, but how do you how do you show to, that female industry that, like it is a safer job now, it's a job that can provide and can be better?
Yeah. Getting into schools with the exact same message to a girls' school as a boys' school, and we're guilty of it as well, where we're more focused and, but we're probably not as received, and it's not probably as receptive. So that's a messaging, that's a marketing, because there is still obviously some doubts. Parents, oh Jesus, I don't want my daughter going into that, But as you say, the more seeing it and being able to, that visible piece of girls doing well in apprenticeships, going home, telling their friends, hopefully that's going to create momentum,
Also, that thing you said about, show them how much money they can make, like that talks as well, like
ever since Jerry Maguire, show me the money.
I would go with the carrot,
The carrot is good at the moment as well, because I know, because we're paying it. But and you know what?
I think I'm going to retrain it.
We're all in it.
It's
Give us a start, Conor.
Well, you're a plaster.
Yeah, but, I'm a labourer. I never had the guts to take it on.
But look, and the other part about it is that, I remember the first day I started an apprenticeship, and it was Anco in Jervis Street, and the guy who I sat beside, the two of us he was from Mead Place Flats, and he's now still my best friend,
Yeah.
So with all the challenges that's going on in the world, with all the challenges going on with people being isolated on their phones, like camaraderie and team, and there's never been more, and the inclusivity of male and female, and our industry getting much better. It's and there's fun and there's crack, and it's a happy place to work.
Yeah.
And most people who stay in it, they're proud of what they do and what they achieve. You can look back and see a physical thing, as I said earlier. We drive through the Port Tunnel, and my daughters, who have all flown the nest now, but they'd regularly go, "Don't mention them lights in that tunnel. Don't mention the lights in that tunnel, Port Tunnel again." But it's something that we, you look back on and you reminisce, and
But you're talking about legacy, right? It's a legacy piece. See that light third from the end? That's mine.
Yeah. There is a legacy piece.
This is your impact on the world, And I think that's also something we have to think about as we make decisions in the way that we sort of, imagine this new future. Is what is our legacy? I never met a single CEO of a company that intended to start a company to be at the Christmas party with just the CEO and a ChatGPT, a large language model, it's a culture full of people, and your people are your greatest asset until they're not. So companies that are kind of going all hell for leather, like Duolingo, for example, the language app, they said we're AI first and laid off all of their staff. That's not a company that anyone, and everyone's looking at that going, well, we could all do that, but then what do we do? And so we have to be very careful we don't make ourselves fully redundant. There has to be a point to us. And on a broader point as well that you're talking about purpose, right? The people that you work with and the teams that you bring together, they have a common purpose and a common goal. If we lose that, and we're at risk of losing that in certain sectors that are going to be wiped out, how do people rise in the morning and have a purpose and something to do?
Yeah.
So we're already looking at, and it's a bit dystopian, I'm afraid, but looking at things like universal basic income. Maybe by 2040, 2045, there'll be some sort of supplement that everyone in the country, they're looking across Europe, will be paid a certain amount. They'll survive.
Okay.
But what will they do? So without purpose, we see then the rise of anxiety and depression and hopelessness and obesity and addiction and all of those other things. So we don't just work for money. We work for connection, for social continuity, to build things, to be in teams, to feel valued.
Yeah.
So it's much, much bigger. So these decisions we're making at the minute, it's not just about profit margins and faster, smarter. It's got to be about the impact of the legacy piece and people that own companies to say, I am not going to use, even though I can, I'm not going to. So just because we can use AI in certain areas doesn't mean that we should. We should be very cautious in terms of giving ourselves a redundancy as a human species, let alone within a role.
Even on that human piece, I don't run. See, I'm not the front and centre CJK anymore, and I'm still involved in the apprenticeships. And the sense of joy it gives me and gives our team when a guy or a girl comes through at the start and comes out the other side, confident, heading off to Australia, travelling the world, knock it out, career paths. We're involved in a partnership with a Cool Mind therapeutic community, and it's addiction issues. And we have 8 graduates of Cool Mind 5 of them had a trade, right? And I'm not going to lie, one of the greatest sense of achievement for me and for our team is that 7 years ago, our first graduate was trying to get a second chance. Yeah. And then what happens is they started work as a general operative, decided to do a trade. They scored first in their class. Then they went off to a trade. They're now in university doing engineering. That sense of legacy and that sense of camaraderie and has been... So at the start, when I initially thought, when Cool Mind first, I thought, we're great fellas behind back. We're giving back. Yeah. No, I thanked them. We actually had a hike on Friday in Wicklow with Cool Mind. I thanked them. I said, the more you give back, it's actually giving back to you, you know. There's a huge benefit in that piece, that legacy piece. You think what you set out, you thought you were doing your bit. It comes back to you in spades, you know.
Lollie, if you overall just frame it for us.
I would say be curious, lean into this, don't ignore it. It can be very advantageous for us, but at the very least, get yourself AI literate and understand what that is, and just stay really curious. So I'm really really optimistic about the future that we can build in Ireland, and I think we have the ability to do something, you know, really beautiful that will be the kind of future that we want. I think sometimes people kind of have that kind of but it's Ireland, and that meh thing, you know, that nothing will really happen. But the changes are coming, so it's up to us to be involved and to design that together. One of the things that we saw just after Futureville was we created this sort of Athlone 2050. We put it up on RTE. It's on the players. If you haven't seen it,
we're all there.
and then about a month ago, we heard that 5 billion was trying to be raised to actually create it. So it's those. My job is just to raise a few red flags and plant a few seeds if I can. But actually to now have potentially a green city being built off the back of that because we showed what was possible. So I think it's like, don't ever lose your curiosity and lean into all of these things. Don't think the world is overwhelming and it's a done deal. It's absolutely not.
Would you have that? Is that the message for parents then as well, who are anxious and nervous? Of course,
start the conversation around, I'm worried about this because, and then watch where you're getting your information from. Don't get all your information off TikTok.
Okay, yeah, that's vital that you're rounding yourself off and that you're taking it from the best. Yeah. Conor, what advice for parents would you have?
I would say now that what I've learned today is that I think parents need to be inquisitive about both AI and trades, because the last thing you want to do is send the kids to trades because of AI. Let them go where they want to go. Will trades be still required in 20 years? Will society require it? Absolutely. Yeah. With what's going on in the world, global warming, sustainability, energy issues, our business has exponentially grown year on year. As in, not the business, as in the industry has grown. So there's huge opportunities there. So what we just need to do is we need to embrace technology, not be afraid of it. There will be bumps in the road, but definitely the both of them can easily be malleable and work together. You know?
And from the trade side, we need to break down the stigmas as well that are surrounding it, isn't it? Especially when you say the barriers of entry. When that was a frightening stat. I know we went through stats, but you mentioned that you've 7 females.
Yeah, well, and that we need to big push on that. Yeah. We need a big push on that. But as I said, I often, you'd be out talking and say, I don't think these people believe me, but we show people and their career paths and where they've got to, and some have stayed as electricians, but some are directors of other companies and business owners, and lots of success stories, Yeah. We're all tradespeople. But I think people think that we robbed them from somewhere and not, you know what I mean? As I said, I was talking to before I came in, I remember 15 years ago be at dinner parties, and it was nearly, people would be afraid. It was, what college are you going to? That was the first thing, what college are they going to? It wasn't, are they doing a trade? No. It was nearly an embarrassment, Yeah,
I agree.
I was never embarrassed of it, but that was the reality. And that's shifting, but we need to keep that shift changing.
Yeah. A fascinating conversation. I think we're only scratching the surface. We're only
just
getting
started.
In this. Yeah. But are you positive for the future?
I am. I'm in it to win it, right? And I think that the future that we can create together could be amazing. Yeah. I don't want to be dictated to and have my future dictated to me by any leader of a tech company. I want to create a better place that's more fruitful, more natural, more beautiful, and one where we can flourish. And that doesn't mean sitting on our phones inside Blade Runner. That's a very different world. And AI is not the tech, is not the problem. It's our habitual use of certain technologies that we just need to raise our heads a little bit and get a little bit smarter than we are at the moment.
And the two you should send in your CV to careers@cjkeng.ie. Okay.
I was just about to ask you.
I'll put a word in for both of us. Okay.
Do the plug properly, Conor. Where are you off to?
We'll make female number 8.
Great, I'm going to be a plumber. What are you going to be?
I'm going to finally finish off a family trade and have 4 generations of plasters.
Perfect. I expect
We've
to
worked
be
bigger
fast-tracked.
miracles. We've worked bigger miracles.
To be honest, I'd follow you into it, Lollie. Wherever you're going, I think that's the space
I'm
to be
going
in.
into plumbing.
Yeah, without doubt. Can I
go.
just say, honestly, thank you so much for joining us today. I think it's an incredible conversation. It's great we're having it. Hopefully, you know what I mean, it stirs a little conversation around, your site or your family home or wherever it is. But on behalf of everyone today on Under Construction, can I just say thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
That's it for this episode of Under Construction with thanks to Chadwicks. A massive thank you to you for listening. Also to our fantastic guests. If you'd like to subscribe or follow, we'd really appreciate it. Or you can hit the like button. See you next time.